Hey, I'm Ali from Rockfiend, and with me today are Chrissy Mostyn and Rick Pilkington, who together are the Blackheart Orchestra. Thank you both for taking the time to talk to Rockfiend today.
It's a
Thanks for
pleasure.
having us.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, welcome. You've been together now, understand from speaking to Rick earlier, for about 15 years, and Hotel Utopia is going to be the sixth album in total.
Well, it's kind of a little bit more disjointed than that because we
Yeah.
became the Blackheart Orchestra in 2016. So the Blackheart Orchestra is still relatively new-ish. So this is our third complete album as the Blackheart Orchestra, but
Yeah.
our sixth in total. I'm so sorry, that's my dog ripping up something. I need to bash.
Sorry.
It's okay. Have the same problem when we have team chats at work. Somebody's dog starts and then they'll bark, and then somebody else's dog hears it over the meeting, and then it's just cacophony of dogs barking.
Bash has to join in every single interview, everything we do is always them.
He always goes in some way, yeah.
He's a star.
And maybe that's it.
Yeah. Do you like to, just for people who aren't aware of your background and that, just give a brief sort of introduction as to your backstory and how you got together?
Well, we got together completely by accident. I'd been playing in rock bands all my life as a guitar player. And then what year was it when we first bumped into each other? Mid 2000s, I suppose, wasn't it? About 2006, 7, something like that. We you I had a roadie in the band who was our driver, and he was also a drummer because all roadies are kind of musicians on the quiet, aren't they? He
Yeah.
got a band together, and he was looking for a singer, and guess who kind of applied for the or got in touch with them for the job? Chrissy. So they were having a little get together to see if it all worked. I just turned up on that afternoon at the rehearsal room that they were using. I thought, wow, she's a great singer, fantastic. We just hit it off like crazy from the very first
Yeah.
get go. I don't know what happened really. It was like one of those kind of chemical moments that we just became friends in 30 seconds. After that, we started kind of in a very gentle way writing songs together. Because at that point in my life, I'd never written a song at all. I thought writing songs were for big proper bands like I was things like that. So yeah, we wrote some songs together, a couple, and then I tentatively suggested, I wonder if we should just try, maybe just doing a couple of little tiny gigs, to see see if it would work, see what it would feel like. So we ended up doing 148 gigs in the first year.
Wow.
Yeah, and it went on from there.
We were very much like just one acoustic guitar and two vocals at
Yeah,
the start. So it was just we were just called Blackheart back then. And then we started expanding what we played. We started using some electronica. Our sound completely changed. And that's when we thought, the word just Blackheart sounds like a really heavy rock band from the 70s. What can we do? Change our name completely. And then you came up with the Blackheart Orchestra,
mhm.
and we were like, yes. So that was like a brand new start, really.
That
But it was like it fitted. It gave us a license to do whatever we wanted to do. It made sense of our gazillion instruments that we have and keep
Yeah.
collecting.
because we were just transitioning then from being a very simple kind of two voices, one guitar thing to being more interesting instruments, keyboards and synths, and you bought your omnichord and all sorts of other things that we had. So we were developing, and then the orchestra concept became, it legitimized us buying more and more and more different things that we
Because
couldn't
the
really play.
first two albums as
Experimenting.
Blackheart, Indigo and Invisible,
Yeah,
they're much sparser in terms of instrumentation to what came later. To me, listening to it, I mean, I'm not a musician at all. I'm just a music fan, but and I feel that there was a change with the songs from a satellite. That there's started to be a difference there. And that confused me because I found it both as Blackheart and the Blackheart Orchestra, because I think you re-released it recently.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, different cover and everything. But up until that time, you were kind of quite folk orientated, but I felt on Songs from a Satellite that was a point where I could start to see a change, and there was more sort of prog sounds coming in. I guess that was the expanded instrumentation started to come in at that point.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That was like the start of buying like some of the synths, some of the, so really I still kind of class Songs from a Satellite almost as the Blackheart Orchestra era, because it was the start of it. We should have probably changed our name by then.
Yeah, we probably should.
Whereas I think Blackheart, Indigo and Invisible sit very well together. I think you're right that there was that big change there.
Yeah, they were a different band.
Yeah.
They were. Yeah, there's a very distinct
mindset.
change in style
Yeah.
at that point. It's quite noticeable. I mean, obviously, it's been a crash course for me, as I mentioned to Rick on the phone. I actually wasn't aware of you. You hit all the right boxes for the music that I like, but I wasn't aware, and it was pure chance because the review of your album Hotel Utopia was actually offered to a friend of mine who also works at Rockfiend, and he didn't fancy it, and he said, Ali, do you fancy reviewing this? And as I said to Rick on the phone, I was hooked from the moment I first played it, and just couldn't stop playing it. And I think I've got every album now in a physical copy in some form or other.
Brilliant.
Beautiful vinyl packages as well, I have to say, for Songs from a Satellite and Diving for Roses.
Right.
Absolutely gorgeous gatefold C packaging. Really enjoying them. Just pity I've got to wait till next year to get Hotel Utopia. I might have to dive in and buy it on CD, just so I've got a physical copy at the moment.
We'll send you one.
Yeah, we'll get you one.
Thank you. There's no need. I'll buy it. I'll help support you. Before we get into Hotel Utopia properly, you are multi-instrumentalists, and I think from what I can pick up on the album, calling yourself an orchestra is quite apt because there's a lot going on. Could you actually give us an idea of just how many instruments are involved?
Ooh.
I think live it's 13, I think.
I mean, we don't class ourselves as we're almost like experimenters. Like, we will buy things that we don't know how to play and play them. So if somebody said, oh, this is, the correct way to play something, we're probably not doing that. We're just kind of like intuitive players, and we will just buy lots and lots of things. So between us, we have like lots of guitars. You play bow guitar, bass, percussion, omnichord, microcorg, lots of like old synths that basically toys, some of them. We've got lots and lots of different things that we just
we're going to gravitate to old instruments, things that other more serious musicians threw away like 30 years ago, and
didn't even bother with
because when we tell serious play or when serious players come and see us and they say, I used to have one of them in 1991. Wow, but
what the hell's that?
to us, they don't have that stigma because we're not really,
we didn't have
serious musicians, I guess, in a way. With no musical theoretical knowledge whatsoever, and we don't have this kind of. I'm a guitar player. I'm into guitars. I'll tell you anything about guitars, but synthesizers and keyboard, I have a clue whether it's fashionable, unfashionable, good, bad. No
it's
clue.
Just how they sound, isn't it? We just fall in love with how things sound.
Yeah, if they have an interesting personality that we think we can do something with, or an interesting sound that we find, that's brilliant. And so we're an odd couple, really, aren't we?
You are.
Yeah, the sounds that come over on the albums are fantastic. As I say, especially that progression since from a Satellite through Diving for Roses. I can never pronounce this one right. I have to look at it. Mesmerento.
Mesmeranto.
It is a made-up word, so you're forgiven.
It's the sound is very full. There's everything, lots going on, and it's a very interesting sound. I think I put in my review, I could hear bits of Bjork and Kate Bush, Pink Floyd, even a little bit of early Marillion in there, and obviously maybe that's just because the instrumentation, you say it's older instruments, so maybe it's referring back to those older sounds. Let's talk about Hotel Utopia, because that's your new album, out today.
Today.
Yeah.
So that's on CD, streaming, and download today, and vinyl early next year, hopefully.
Yes. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about it, because thematically, I feel there's an actual through line from Mesmeranto into Hotel Utopia. So talk us through your thoughts going into the album, and if the ideas followed on, where were you coming from?
Okay, well, really, in a way, Hotel Utopia was never intended to be a sequel to Mesmeranto, but it's kind of turned out to be somewhat of a sequel to the album. Mesmeranto had a theme which was death. At the time we were writing it and recording it, your mum was coming towards the end of her life, and really we were both kind of, well, you more than me, obviously, but we're both kind of absorbed by that part of her life and our lives being part of that kind of trio. And I think that coloured a lot of the thoughts that went into the songs and went into the recording of it. So Mesmeranto turned out to be, in a way, a tribute to your mother. And consequently, Hotel Utopia, we've been thinking kind of slightly more optimistically, I hope, about the afterlife.
Yeah.
And, is there an afterlife? It's the eternal question, isn't it? It's a fascinating thing. Every single human being that ever walked on this planet has probably thought, what happens when I die?
Yeah.
What happens when it all goes out, when the light goes out? Does the light go out, or does a different coloured light come on and something starts again?
Question, isn't it?
Is heaven real? Is there anything after life, or do we just sit in a graveyard and rot? So I think all those. Sorry, I'm getting too morbid, but really, all those questions absorb us because we're just normal human beings, and I think that those thoughts started to percolate into the songwriting. Again, I don't think it was intentional, but I think we got sort of halfway through the album and we kind of discovered that there was a kind of a thread going through all this writing, and there was a thread that was joining all these songs together. So once we grasped that, we kind of focused on it, I think, and that became the idea behind the album. Really, it's a discussion about the afterlife. We have no answers, of course. We're not trying to promote one answer or another. We're not trying to promote any kind of faith route or religious belief or anything like that. We're just acknowledging that it's a fascinating question that will never have an answer.
It's very upbeat though in places, given what the topics you're talking about, things like astronaut and what have you. They're very uplifting. I mean, even right at the end, the flood. I mean, it starts off, the lyric part of it, it's quite down, slow, but then it just builds and builds, and that instrumental passage coming out of that, it's epic. It's the best way I can describe it. Is
great. I'm glad you think that. Yeah, I mean, it's not all. So even when you were saying we all think about what happens when we die, and I think when you lose somebody so close to you, you wonder what happens to them. That is such a big thing. You think, when certain things happen, you think, is that them? Are they doing that?
You do.
You kind of wonder. So I think that is where my head was steeped in all of that, and my body was steeped in all of that as well. But it isn't just sad, is it? Because it is sad when you lose somebody, but it also makes you realize how much they gave you as well, and how much life can be great, and how everything moves. But we don't know the answer, and it could be something great. It could be, I read a lot of philosophy, and it could be something, nothing to be scared of at all. It could be. It's just so natural, isn't it, when we look at the planet and everything comes around, everything is in cycles. Why wouldn't we be, in a way? So the flood is almost like that turbulence of everything ending but everything beginning, almost together.
I think the best way to live is not to be scared of dying. And if you can live like that, with that thought in your mind, which is quite difficult. It's not easy, is it? But if you can think in that way, I think life becomes a different experience altogether.
But also the knowledge that we do die probably motivates us to live as well. So there's It's not all
You
negative.
have the other side, though. You have the people that live in fear of dying and then actually never live their life because they're so terrified of dying. And I think, I can't think of the song off the top of my head, but one of the tracks on Hotel Utopia, you're actually telling people to rise up, live, and enjoy things.
Yeah, raise your heart. It's very
Raise
much
your heart. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we all feel that. Well, I feel that way sometimes too. You know, we go through these cycles, don't we, where we feel braver than others, we feel more optimistic than others, we feel more afraid than others, and it's just such a natural human thing, isn't it, that we all experience this, but we all experience it together. And when we first started talking about the topic around it, because we sort of noticed these threads going through it, we're like, gosh, is this really morbid? But then I don't think it is, and I'm glad that you said that there's lots of uplifting bits, because I think this is our most optimistic album we've done about death, you know.
Yeah. No, it's there, and I like it thematically that the first track and the last track have both got the watery themes to them, and it's like you've come full circle. So it is almost a debate in itself. The album that we started, we're back to, and go away and make your own ideas. And I think a lot of the best records or best songs are like that. They're not the songs that ram an idea down people's throats overly. They're the songs that make people think and what they want to do. And a lot of the people I like that. I'm a big fan of Kate Bush, Peter Gabriel. In fact, your songs for a satellite album is lying on top of Peter Gabriel 3 at the moment, so it's in good company.
That's nice.
Great.
So and that definitely come through. Conscious time here. Obviously, the album's done and dusted. I know you hurt yourself recently, Chrissy. Is that all recovered now?
Not yet, unfortunately. I'm doing better than what I was, but I've still got a bit of a way to go, to be honest.
Yeah.
So that's
Because you were supposed to be going out on the road now.
Yeah, correct. We had 18 dates booked, and on date number 4, which was in Leeds, you lifted something a bit wrong, twisted it back, popped a disc out, and you've been in pretty much agony ever since. Yeah, it's been a terrible shame, because we're looking forward to touring, but it's been a tragedy for you, because you've been in agony. You've been imprisoned in your house for 3-4 weeks now.
Yeah, I have a bit of cabin fever. In a way, it's good that we had the album released to focus on, because I still have lots of admin stuff to do from the floor. So this is like the first few days that I've actually been able to sit. So I'm making progress, but it was just one of those things of lifting a heavy speaker from the wrong angle. And I'm quite small anyway. I am strong. I've lifted the speaker a million times, but it was just it was in a different position on the floor to what I would normally do. I just went sideways, and this is just perks of the job, isn't it?
Horrible. As somebody who spends a lot of time stuck indoors because of an illness, I can sympathize with that. I know what the cabin fever feels like. What are the touring plans then? Do you have anything in mind, or is it just a case of wait and see at the moment?
Well, we've rescheduled some dates towards the end of the year. Plus, we have a tour already booked for spring, which was the proper Hotel Utopia tour anyway, because this album was coming out obviously towards the end of the tour anyway.
Yeah.
So we have.
So a lot of the dates that we've not been able to do on this tour have been moved into spring. So spring's going to be a pretty mammoth tour, which we're looking forward to. We're hoping that we can get a couple of gigs. If you kind of optimistically pick up, we might be able to pick up on a couple of the last dates of this tour if you're fit enough. Fingers crossed. But if not, there's a couple of dates in December, and then a big tour to look forward to in March, April, May.
Any idea what people can expect on the tour?
Hotel Utopia, plus some of the old favorites, of course. People like to hear the old stuff as well, but at the start of this tour, because we'd already started, we were playing 9 tracks from the album in the live show, and we were thinking, is this too much? But we had such a great reception to the songs, and people were like, no, we want to hear the new stuff. And that felt really lovely, because sometimes, you know, you want the bands to play the stuff that you know. So it was just
Yeah.
really, it felt like the songs were being really embraced, didn't it?
Very much so. I mean, when I'm guilty of this. You know, you go and see one of your favorite bands that you've loved for 20 years or something. You just want to hear those great songs that you fell in love with straight, you know, at the beginning, you know.
And you get that moment where it's like, oh, here's a song from our new album, and you see 100 people get up to go to the toilet or get a pint of beer because they don't want to hear the songs; they just want the greatest hits.
Yeah, they do. I'm guilty of that.
But we've not experienced that at all. People were like, "Yeah, really looking forward to the new album now." So I think we're really lucky with. I think our fans are really open-minded. They come with us from being acoustic to being. It's almost like we have free reign, and that feels great.
Maybe that evolution is what keeps people interested and staying for the new stuff, because it's not just the old stuff rehashed or anything. I mean, I'm not going to mention any of the bands that I like by name, but there are some bands I like that are making records now and they're still trying to recapture what they were doing in 1987. And obviously people only want to hear the stuff they were doing in 1987, not a retread of it being played today. Whereas having listened to all your albums sort of quite intensely over a short period of time, there's always a growth and an evolution. So there's always something new for people to come to and listen to.
Well, there's a danger with change as well for many people. You know, people sometimes don't want change. They want to be, you know, they want it cooked exactly the same every meal. And I think we're the opposite of that. I think we're trying to change the recipe all the time. I think people I hope they're excited by that, and they seem to be sticking with us anyway.
But I think, you know, as if you were a painter, there's no point in painting the same picture that amount of times. If people want to look at that picture, they can look at it. It's there, it exists already. And as people, you grow and evolve and change and you discover new things. You might discover a new book that inspires you, a new artist, a new place. You know, we're constantly evolving, aren't we? And it would be really sad to not expand. It would be really sad to constrict and have these rules.
So the other thing we like to do is actually take a song and then do a totally different version of a song of our own. You know, so for example, on what was it, on Satellite? Was it Not Over Yet?
Yeah.
That was in a certain way, recorded in a certain way on the album. Now we rested it for a couple of years, then we brought it back into the set in a totally different form. Actually, I prefer the new form to the original album form now, and also with, you know, even dust off the Hotel Utopian album. It's a very well, we found we couldn't replicate that because it's actually slowed down on the album. So we started to perform it live, and it's ended up again a very different version of the song, you know. And in a way, I think it's great to have 2, 3, 4 different versions of the same song, reinterpretations of our own material.
Yeah, so we don't go live on stage and try and make it sound like the record. And we have that freedom as well, because we don't use backing tracks or anything like that. So we want it. We're lucky that people accept and don't come going, oh, that doesn't sound like the record. They're seeing the real raw bones of the song when they come and see it live. They're seeing it in its essence, how it was written, and people enjoy both sides of it. So again, we're really lucky to have this acceptance of, oh, that doesn't sound like the record. I think people enjoy the difference between them, don't they?
Yeah, I think they do.
The different interpretations.
I think if a band has a more experimental sound, people come half expecting that, you know, and obviously I think it's going to limit that there's only the two of you on stage, so there's going to be a difference, obviously, because you're not multi-tracking 30 instruments. Kind of brings me on to something else. You talk about the fans coming with you, and I went to, because Rick and I touched on this when we spoke on the telephone, and that's how do you feel about the music business now and the impact of the internet and streaming and things like that? I think I know what Rick will say, because we kind of spoke about it already.
We're probably from different places on it, so I think there's good and there's bad sides. So I think, you know, there's people who will discover us on the Spotify weekly playlists and who wouldn't have discovered us otherwise. You know, when we see where we're being played in different countries, we definitely couldn't have got to them without the internet and without streaming. I feel like there almost needs to be a flood in the music industry and a restart in a way, so people can stream, but artists get paid properly for it, because there's such a disconnect there of feeling like you want to be on there because you want to be able to be discovered, but then it's a heavy price of. But that said, our fans like to support us and buy the merch as well, so they will stream us and buy the merch. And you know, when you look on Spotify, we don't push Spotify massively, because you know, we've seen so many bands who have millions of listeners. You turn up to a gig and there's 10 people there. It doesn't translate into real money, real people. It doesn't translate into that loyal fan base. So I think we're quite realistic about it. We're there because it has its benefits, but we're also aware that to have a sustainable career, we need to be able to be playing live, and we need people to buy our music. Otherwise, we can't make records.
It still costs a lot of money to make records. I know people will say, oh, well, you know, so-and-so made this hit album in his bedroom on his laptop. That's true. You can do that. But I think sometimes when you want to make more complex music, it takes longer and it costs more to make an album. It
costs time too. So even if you're doing it in your bedroom,
it does.
That's still.
I think people are confused as to what kind of value music has these days, because music's become free.
Yeah.
Or, you know, I think that's not done music a good service. I think that's devalued the whole concept of music as an art form in a way that you can just pull it off the internet and listen to 2 minutes of it and throw it away, and there's no commitment necessary from the listener to buy into that piece of music or that band or that artist. But I think in the world of prog and rock especially, I think there is. I think that part of the music world has retained that kind of value relationship between its listeners and the artists. I think the listeners understand the value of great music. I think they still really respect great music and haven't trivialized it. So it doesn't just become, you know, that drone in the hairdresser's salon behind all the hair dryers, you know, something that's unimportant and trivial. You know, I don't think rock music will ever become that, and prog music, I don't think it will ever become trivialized, because there's too many people who need it that badly. You know?
The rock community put more effort into it as well, that the whole packaging, as I say, packaging for your albums, the re-release of Songs from a Satellite, you know, even something like Coldplay, the whole packaging thing is there. It's not simply the blandest cover they can get, stick it on something, because nobody's going to buy the CD. They're only going to stream it anyway. There's that extra effort to make it worth the fans going and buying the physical commodities, coming out to the shows. Because, you know, if you go and see such and such a band like yourself, they're not going to replicate the album exactly. So you're not going to get what you could hear just sitting at home and putting the record on. It's a different experience.
That's a really good
community as well.
It is a community, definitely. And I agree about the artwork. I mean, the artwork is the clothing that we're dressing this in. It's as important as the music. Well, it is as important to the music. You know, we put so much attention and love into what we do, and we love it when people then can enjoy it. Because you know, my vinyl collection only started like a year ago, but I get really excited receiving a new package, and I can't wait to see what love's been put into it and the detail. And I think you're right about like the prog and the rock community. Their attention span hasn't disappeared like a lot of people's has. They will sit down and listen from start to finish in the sequence that we lay it out in. You know, they will listen to it as it was meant, rather than 2 seconds of a snippet here, and they will immerse themselves in it. And we want the packaging to be part of that immersive experience, don't we?
Oh yeah. I mean, I can remember when I was a kid and I started buying records and things, you know, you used to be absolutely obsessed with it. Whilst I was listening to the album, I wanted to look at that imagery and read those lyrics.
Get the lyrics out, study them and learn them.
After it, where was it recorded, and every detail, you just wanted to soak it all in. It was
the producer.
A bigger experience than just listening to some music. You wanted to really own it in all your senses somehow.
Yeah,
And I'm still into that. I'm afraid.
yeah, me too. Me too. I'm still doing that. Got a package sitting here from Amazon. It's an album to open. So,
Great.
Jess Malin album from a couple of years ago that he's
Right.
just put out on vinyl. His Glitter in the Gutter album, which is a
Okay.
very
Right.
good burst of sort of a New York punk rock leaning sort of Springsteenisms, and that is very good. Seen him live, he's excellent. I've had my 10-minute warning from Zoom, so
Okay.
couple of sort of fun questions just to finish off with. If you could pretend that I'm a lot more professional than I really am, and that this is Mojo magazine, and you've been invited to do the at home with section that they have at the beginning each month, what do you sing in the shower, if you sing anything at all?
I don't sing in the shower. I don't sing in the shower.
Oh, just make something up. Don't be
Oh,
boring.
okay. This is such a hard question.
It is a tough question.
I'm such a podcast listener. I'm gonna have to lie. At the moment, I'm listening to a lot of Sigur Rós, which is really hard to sing along to. So I would attempt to do that in Hopelandic. How about you?
I haven't a clue. I've never sung in the shower either, because I just like in and out as quick as possible and go over the day. But I don't know, what would I sing in the shower? Probably something not rock and roll. Probably I'd probably sing along to Linda Ronstadt or Emmylou Harris or something like that. Because I love that kind of 70s kind of country rock kind of thing.
Yeah.
Maybe Steely Dan. I probably would
Steely
say
Dan.
Steely Dan. Pretzel Logic would be my shower album, I think.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of Ricky, Don't Lose That Number. It's a nice easy
Correct.
song. What would you pick as a Saturday night record?
This is hard work.
I guess it depends what kind of Saturday night you're having, doesn't it? If you're having a Saturday night of fun.
Saturday night.
I like miserable music, though, to be fair.
I'm the same. I got told off for that by somebody the other day. I was putting up things like Jeff Buckley, Hallelujah, and that on YouTube.
Really?
And somebody went, "You're trying to make us all suicidal."
Yeah. See, this is why you like us, isn't it?
That's got a lot to do with it. Yeah, I like lyrics. I like records that say something.
I'm really pleased.
So Saturday night music is a difficult question, because you could say, well, what would you listen to at 7 o'clock on Saturday night? What would you listen to at 11 o'clock on Saturday night?
Yeah.
And what would you listen to at 3 o'clock Sunday morning? And they would be different albums.
Well, if it helps, my next question is, what would be your Sunday morning records?
Oh, my Sunday morning records would probably be something like Oliver Arnold's or Ludovico Einaudi, something kind of really chilled out and minimal.
Mine would be something classical like Handel or Bach. I like Baroque music very, very much. I like Baroque choral music especially. I'm a real addict of harmony and kind of almost like religious music. It really turns me on.
I can hear that. I can hear that in your albums.
Harmonic thing.
Oh,
I can hear that. Yeah. So where some of the choruses are built up and everything. It's
yeah.
Oh, I'm glad.
Anyway, I think I'll wrap it up before Zoom says you're done and chops us off. So Chrissy, Rick, I'll say thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.